A single state-of-the-art artificial intelligence chip weighs about 3 pounds. It is smaller than a standard dictionary. Yet, on the shadow market today, this slab of silicon and copper sells for over $80,000. That makes it worth far more than its weight in pure gold. It is the most highly prized, tightly controlled, and aggressively smuggled commodity on Earth. And the system built to stop it is completely powerless. In the mid-2020s, the nature of global trade underwent a permanent shift. Superpowers realized that the race for artificial intelligence was no longer just about software algorithms. It was about raw, physical computing power. To win this strategic race, Western nations enacted sweeping trade bans, treating high-end chips not as commercial products, but as national security assets on par with enriched uranium. The goal was simple: choke off the supply of physical hardware to rival nations to secure a permanent monopoly on the future. When you think of smuggling, you probably picture back alley deals, hidden compartments in shipping containers, or cash-filled suitcases. But that is where almost everyone gets this wrong. You do not build a modern, multi-billion-dollar artificial intelligence cluster with contraband stuffed in a backpack. The real silicon black market operates in broad daylight. It is run by registered logistics firms, licensed electronics distributors, and clean-cut shell corporations using nothing more than legal loopholes and misleading paperwork. To understand how these chips slip through national borders, think of global capital as water under immense hydrostatic pressure. If you block a high-pressure pipe with a valve, the water does not simply stop. It builds force until it finds every microscopic crack in the metal. The massive global demand for computing power is that water. The export bans are the valve. When a single chip can yield a 100% profit margin just by crossing a border, the economic pressure becomes too immense for any regulatory pipeline to hold. The journey of a restricted chip rarely starts with a crime. It starts with a perfectly legal transaction. A newly registered shell company in a neutral country places an order for thousands of advanced servers, claiming they are destined for a local cloud data center. But once the cargo plane lands in a transit hub, the trail goes cold. The servers are quietly unboxed, split into smaller shipments, and routed through a maze of third-party resellers before disappearing into unauthorized server farms. The primary weapon of the silicon smuggler is not stealth, but complexity. They use a tactic called corporate nesting. One shell company buys the chips, sells them to a second entity in another country, which then leases them to a third. By the time the hardware actually moves across a border, the original manufacturer has lost all visibility. Sometimes, the chips are stripped from their original motherboards, declared as lower-spec consumer electronics, or classified as refurbished spare parts to slip past customs agents who cannot tell one green circuit board from another. This shadow trade continues because, at its core, the global system has no real incentive to stop it. Semiconductor manufacturers want to sell as many units as possible to satisfy their shareholders. Distributor networks rely on high transaction volumes to survive. Even the transit countries benefit from the massive influx of capital and trade activity. When every player in the supply chain profits from a transaction, self-regulation becomes an empty promise. Government agencies are left trying to police a borderless, trillion-dollar digital economy with paper compliance forms. We are entering an era where computing power is the ultimate form of sovereignty. Governments can ban the export of physical hardware, but they cannot ban the laws of economics. As long as software can be accessed from anywhere on the planet, the physical machines that run it will find a way to navigate around any geopolitical barrier. The silicon smugglers are not just opportunists. They are the inevitable product of a world trying to build borders around a technology that is inherently borderless.